We're now going to show you how to model reverse mortgage benefits and cash flow when you have a borrower who is free and clear. Let's go briefly over the data entry. 70 years old is the age of the youngest homeowner. That person has no birthday within the next 7 months. They live in a home worth about $750,000 in Utah. They're self-reporting excellent credit, a car loan of $350 monthly payments, and $125 is their minimum current credit card payments per month. They live in a single-family residence, husband and wife. There is no HOA community. Their home is 2,000 square feet, and that is all of the real estate they own. In terms of income and assets, they've got $5,700 a month of gross income. $15,000 is in their checking and savings accounts, and they've got $125 in IRAs. Those are all the financial assets they have. They have no mortgage right now. They're free and clear, so they're paying their annual property taxes of $4,500 per year, paying that on their own, plus their homeowner's insurance of $1,500 a year. And they have no other liens on the property. So if we click here to get results, we're going to see a couple of different charts right up front. The first one is focusing on the line of credit. It starts out at $291,000, and it will grow over time. If they never touch it and decide to access it in their late 80s, they could have over $1 million available to them, regardless of what the property value is at that time. They might love this growth factor, but they might prefer, from a budget standpoint, to receive monthly payments. So this blue rectangle represents the $291,000 available to them in the line of credit. The green one is if they decided to allocate all of that into our monthly payment plan and receive payments over 10 years. If they did that, they would receive $392,000, roughly $100,000 more than the initial amount. And that translates to $3,270 per month. We also have a lifetime plan. This monthly payment will continue for as long as at least one borrower is alive and kicking in the reverse mortgage property. In this example, we assume they would live for another 30 years and they would receive $650,000, more than twice what the initial $291 is. And that translates to $1,810 per month, and that's lifetime. These are not your only two options. Here's more of an example about how you might arrange a reverse mortgage. You might pull out $15,000 up front to pay off the car loan. You might allocate $145,000 to receive a monthly payment, a lifetime payment, and leave the rest, that $179, in the line of credit. Could be sort of a rainy day fund, so to speak. So that's just to kind of give you some options that you understand are available to you. We're now going to work on building your reverse mortgage. This first chart is sort of a visual chart showing you what your property value will be like in the future. If it grows at 3% per annum, that's what we default to. This blue section here is your home equity. As you can see, there's a lot of home equity now when you're free and clear, and there'll be a lot of home equity in the future. This tiny little green slice is your reverse mortgage loan balance. It'll start off with financed fees, which we'll go over a bit later, and we assume that will grow over time because we don't expect you to pay anything on your reverse mortgage, no principal or interest payments. You can if you want to. Be surprised on how many people do, but we're assuming here that you don't. Here's that $291,000 in the line of credit, and if you never touch it, it's growing in your favor. It's an adjustable interest rate, and we're going to go through that adjustable rate in a bit because that's what influences the rate of growth in the line of credit. It has nothing to do with your income, your credit score, or the property value. It's the one-year treasury rate that will determine what your future line of credit growth will be. Here are the different areas where we can do the what-if analysis. And here at the bottom is more of a summary chart, meaning if you're 70 years old now, 15 years from now, your property would be worth $1,168,000 if it goes up at 3% a year. Your loan balance right now is zero. It would climb all the way to $63,000. Those are the financed fees, accruing interest, and FHA insurance over the years. Right now you have $750,000 of equity, and in 15 years you'd have $1.1 million. That would be for the heirs to inherit. And of course that's an increase of $355,000. You'd also have zero cash flow impact because you're not taking any money out of the line credit yet. You're not making any payments yet, so there's no impact there at all. And at age 85, you'd have access to about $766,000. So let's talk about how we can change things to reflect different interest rate environments. This is the adjustable rate that we've seen in the past with this reverse mortgage. I created this chart starting in 1990 because in 1989, Ronald Reagan signed the bill creating the program, or creating the pilot study, if you will. And over here, this shows what the rate might look like in the future. There's nothing scientific about this. This just sort of reflects that rates go up and down and up and down. We have other ways, other options to model this in the future. You might say, okay, well, let's just use what the average has been of these up and downs in the past. And as you can see at bottom, it ends up being somewhere in the mid fives or so. And that will change things down here. You're now going to have a lower loan balance. Instead of 63, it's down to 52. And that's just because this interest rate scenario over time is a little bit lower than the Twin Peaks interest rate scenario. It also means you're going to have a little bit of a lower line of credit because this rate influences the line of credit growth. Still over $638,000. So let's leave that alone for now and move on. We're defaulting to 3% per annum for an annual property appreciation rate. In your neighborhood, you might think that's a good number. Or you might say, hey, I think mine is a little bit better at 4%. That's a little bit more of a reasonable estimate. If you do that, then your property value is going to be higher to $1.35 million, which translates to a higher equity change over $500,000. And the heirs would inherit almost $1.3 million of equity at age 85. You can do your own custom there. You can create 3%, 2%. So there's a lot of different options available to you there. Let's say you want some immediate cash. In this particular example, the most you could get during the first year is $165,000. Let's say you got $10,000 left on that car loan and you want to pay it off. So you'll draw $10,000 at closing. So instead of $291 in your initial line of credit, you'd then have $281 in your initial line of credit because you took $10,000 out. So we're going to go back down here and we're going to see that there's now a $10,000 cash flow impact. You've received $10,000. So that's a benefit for you from a cash flow standpoint. So let's say you decided you wanted to make voluntary payments on a reverse mortgage. Not many people do, especially in this kind of a situation, but it's an option available to you. You're 70 years old now. You want to make payments, let's just say, for 5 years. And you want to start doing it immediately, and you want to stop after 5 years. And it's a nominal amount. You put in $350 a month, something like that, just to kind of see what happens. You don't see much of a change because it's only $350 a month, and it's only for 5 years. But you do see a cash flow change because now you're paying us $350 a month over 5 years. That's $21,000. We gave you $10,000 up front, so it's a net negative of $11,000. You see a little higher line of credit because that $21,000 went into the line of credit. That $21,000 also went into the mortgage balance. So now instead of 52 that we had before, it's down to 34. So there are some benefits to making those voluntary payments. Boost your funds in the line of credit. This line of credit is insured by the U.S. government, acting through FHA. And the growth rate, as you can tell from the chart, is higher than what you can normally get in a checking or a savings account. Next, we're going to talk about receiving money from the reverse mortgage. So you might want to get money later on down the road in your mid-80s. Maybe you're going to need some in-home care. That happens from time to time. So you're 70 now. Let's say in 16 years when you're 86, and you say, well, I might need to have some help over a 3-year period. So let's see, for 3 years, how much can I get? Get over $21,000 a month. Do you want all of it? Probably not, because you probably want to leave a hefty amount of the line of credit still for just in case. So you stay with no, and maybe you type in, I don't know, $9,000 a month. And we'll model that for you next. So what you'll see in this chart is an important change. You see the line of credit going down. That's because we took money out of the line of credit so we could fund these 3 years of payments to you of $9,000 a month. We're paying you, and anytime a bank pays you, that means you're getting a loan. So here you see the loan balance growing and continue to grow over time. You still have a very healthy amount available to you in the line of credit. So should something else change and you need this longer than 3 years, you have access to funds. And there's still a ton of equity in the property for the heirs. So we're going to collapse this one and go to our summary page here. Well, you might say, I think I'm going to make it past 86 or 87 or 89. I might make it to 90. I've lived a pretty healthy lifestyle. I've got good genes. Good for you. If that's the case, your mortgage balance will be higher, over $400,000 at age 90. You'll still have $478,000 more equity than what you have right now, over $1.2 million for the heirs. Cash flow impact will be very positive. That's because of all that money we're giving you for the 3 years, $9,000 a month. So your net positive impact is close to $800,000, and you still have $500,000 available in the line of credit. So after you've run through this a bit and looked at it, you might say, okay, I think this is how I want it. Let's click on Summary. This will give you a little bit of verbiage about the reverse mortgage program. We'll also then go into some numbers for you. You'll see how the numbers here reflect what you saw in those graphs and charts, both in terms of cash flow and in terms of future equity and line of credit. But let's go back to the verbiage first. What's important for a reverse mortgage borrower to understand is, or anybody to understand during retirement, is cash flow. Will you have access to the cash you might need during retirement? A reverse mortgage is one avenue for accessing cash flow, because if you had a mortgage and you no longer have to pay the principal and interest, that's a positive cash flow. With the reverse mortgage, you could be able to access money in an annuity style payment. That's cash flow. If you make voluntary payments, you can redraw those payments down the road. That's important from a cash flow standpoint. Your line of credit cannot arbitrarily be canceled or suspended by the lender just because the market crashes. The only way that line of credit can be stopped or killed or canceled is if the borrower defaults. And typically borrower defaults happen when they don't pay property taxes or insurance or HOA fees on time, or if they move out of the property and turn it into an Airbnb or something like that. So they've got to live in the property as their primary residence, maintain the property to FHA standards, pay your property taxes and insurance and HOA. You can receive annuity style payments. That can be very helpful from a budgeting standpoint, and it's very flexible. You can start and stop those payments. In our example, we ran a 3-year payment plan. If after 1 year you said, I want to stop it, not a problem. We can stop it. And whatever we have in that bucket, so to speak, that was there to fund the remaining 2 years, that money goes back into the line of credit, so you have access to it. Voluntary payments are a way for you, a borrower, to create more equity in your property and accelerate the growth in the line of credit. This is a non-recourse loan. You have no personal responsibility to repay it, and there's no recourse to the borrowers or the heirs. You can hold your property in a trust if it meets FHA and lender guidelines. I won't go through all of these, but I think it's important to go through these with all of the potential borrowers so they understand the flexibility, the features, the benefits, how this can lower risk for people. And in reverse mortgage, risk is a 4-letter word. In retirement, risk is a 4-letter word. Here we look at the initial setup fees. And there's really 3 levels. We've got miscellaneous closing costs, things like title insurance, appraisal, escrow, and such. Those are quite similar to a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. There's an origination fee for putting the loan together. That goes to the lender, and that's somewhat similar to points in a conventional mortgage. And the FHA insurance is always the biggest one. That's 2% of the property value with a cap on it. So, a borrower has to look at this and say, wow, these are higher fees than a typical mortgage, but this is not a typical mortgage. Are the features and benefits and the ability for me to model this to meet my needs worth it or not? And if it's not worth it, close the browser. End of deal. If they think it's worthwhile, they want to keep moving forward, then I think it's good to show them the cash flow chart that you looked at is based on these numbers here. First off, you're giving us $350 a month for 5 years. That's the $4,200. That's negative cash flow for you. And then later on, we're giving you $9,000 a month for 3 years. That's positive cash flow for you. And the cumulative value of these cash flows shows up here. This is the chart. These are the numbers used to create the chart showing how much equity we expect there to be in the property based on the inputs you selected when building your reverse mortgage. Equity is simple. It's property value minus loan balance. So if you start off with a $780,000 property value at the end of the first year based on appreciation, and a loan balance at the end of the first year of $31,000 and change, you'd have about $748,000 of equity. The loan balance is influenced by any payments you make to us. That'll bring the loan balance down or it'll slow down the growth. And any payments we make to you, that will accelerate the growth, increase the loan balance. And on a monthly basis, we're adding on interest based on the inputs that we have here. And we're adding on the FHA mortgage insurance. So you add those two together, plus the payments, you end up with the loan balance. The line of credit started off at $291,000. At the end of the first year, it's a little over $300,000. That's because of the growth that happened based on this interest rate and the 0.5% relating to FHA, plus you gave us some payments. Those payments are contributing to the growth. And that's how that works. The initial loan setup is right here. We're estimating an initial rate of 5.38%. And total fees down here. And property value estimates, beginning mortgage balance are the finance fees, plus the $9,000 to you to pay off the car loan. If you've looked at this, you say, well, this is what I'm expecting, this is what I want to do, let's move forward. That's when we can capture the borrower's information so we can create a proposal for them, get them started in the process. Youngest borrower information goes here, older borrower goes here. If there's some special notes that are important, like they really want to get that line of credit, or they really like that monthly payment plan, this is a good place to type it in. If you're not ready to divulge any personal information just yet, that's fine, no problem. Just click on this blue button here, and a PDF of the reverse mortgage scenario that you created will be downloaded. There it is right there. So click on that, and you can print it or save it wherever you want to. And this just shows you what you decided to go through. You pick the historic average rate, 4% annual appreciation, $10,000 cash at closing, making voluntary payments for a little while, receiving money for a while, and the summaries down here, together with those tables that we just went through. With all of this, you'll be able to share this with financial planners, adult children of the borrower, whomever is involved in the decision-making process. This is very similar for other scenarios, such as somebody might have a $200,000 mortgage instead of being free and clear, but a little bit different. So we'll show you that video next.